comes on the board, things are going to get opened up, and only white is in a good position for that.
Moving his king here.
Okay, moving his king. Maybe not the fastest move. It's a bit of a slow... It's a useful one. You protect some pawns, you put your king on a very safe square, but it is slow. It felt like that was the time to accelerate things, to get ready to play that pawn push. Jovanka wants to push that f-pawn forward.
Right.
But, yeah.
But talking about having a plan or having an idea in chess, of course, we all know Chessable, where you can... should we mention this move?
Yeah, Magnus just fulfilling his plan. He's trying to challenge for that key f5 square.
All right, well, we all know Chessable, where you can go in and learn so much about chess. You know, Wesley so has a Chessable course. So many players has Chessable courses. And now you can make your own Chessable course for a chance to win $5,000. And the winner, Simon Williams, will also create a video course with the winner of... this competition. So head over to chessable.com #create to check out how you can enter the competition to win $5,000. All right, and we do have some moves.
We do have a move there, Wesley. So just bringing his queen into the action. We did mention a few minutes ago that white queen not really doing too much. So why not bring her towards where all of the fun is going to happen? That white queen is going to continue trying to journey away towards the black king. And okay, we do see a trade of knights there by Magnus. Not sure who that favours, that last trade of knights, but it's still clear that white is the one with a plan. White still wants to push his pawn on the f-line forward and challenge black's centre. So that's coming soon, but Wesley so needs to time it correctly.
Timing again.
Yep.
All about, you know, time and age today, it feels.
Yeah.
Well, they do say that chess is timing as well. You know, it's a very, very important concept. You have to strike at the right time. We saw that again with the 𝙬𝙬𝙬𝙬 and Levon Aronian. You know, there were some critical opportunities there that were only available for one moment. And when that's the situation, you have to take those opportunities. And they do say, what was it? Space is also very important with chess. It's all about taking as much space as possible. And
I mean, there's calculation, of course, when it's really concrete, when there's all sorts of trades, all sorts of threats, attacks, checks, that's when calculation comes in. But when that's not happening, then it's about planning. Then it's quieter. You can take a step back, go back to basics, and follow all these kind of these themes we've been discussing, just improving pieces, finding better squares, talking to your pieces as well, just saying, where do you want to be in 3 moves' time? And I think that's what top players do. That's why what makes them so good. That's why they can play so quickly and so accurately, even in these quiet positions.
And when we are talking about timing, is that very much related to intuition, which Magnus is very good at?
Yes, yeah, for sure. Magnus, he senses when he can kind of accelerate the play, when he can kind of make the game a bit crazy, as we saw in that last game when he won against Wesley So. But he also senses when he can just take a step back and just say, okay, I'll bring that piece to the party. That piece is not doing too much. So here, for example, he thought the black queen not doing too much, and he brings her across one square. Now white cannot actually make this pawn push he wanted to make, because white's knight might be a bit vulnerable. It's that white knight is in the eye line of the black queen. So Magnus just saying, I'm going to make it slightly more tricky for you to fulfill your plan. Yes, you can still continue with it, but it's going to take you longer now. So interesting move by Magnus. Personally, I would have been tempted to just bring the black rook into the game, the black rook in the corner, not doing anything at all right now, but he's keeping that rook flexible for the next few moves.
Yeah, that's a nice move by Magnus, just to maintain the flexibility in the position and at the same time just prevent white's plan for one move. And again, the kind of impetus is on Wesley. What is Wesley going to do? How is he going to position his rooks? Should he be using, you know, the rook that's next to his queen? Should he use that one to support his pawn push? Should he perhaps try to involve the other rook, which just seems to be out on a limb, not doing anything? So, I mean, does he have time? These are the questions. Does he have time to maneuver and maneuver and maneuver, or will Magnus be able to clamp down? So many questions to answer.
Yeah, and I was just thinking, Kai, you mentioned the Chessable courses. Actually, this is the quarterfinals. There's 8 players left. 3 of the 8 have created chessable courses.
Oh, that's right.
Several chessable courses between them, Magnus, Wesley, and Anish Giri. So clearly, it helps them study chess. And
yesterday we were talking about the B3 course by 𝙬𝙬𝙬𝙬, super
Right.
popular, which brought him so much success when he actually used the B3 opening 𝙬𝙬𝙬. It was too late. He already had lost too many points, but he did win a few games with it.
Yeah, and I mean, it's certainly a big labor of love to create a course, a project like this. But a lot of people actually are lacking the confidence in actually submitting such an idea, because I know that usually if you're writing books, you have to get approached if you have a title or something. So it's great now that that Chessable are opening it up, because I've met many club players who've had ideas. They've put in so much work in developing a system, a repertoire, and that kind of thing deserves to be shared and given a wider platform. And they wouldn't necessarily get it in the mainstream chess publishing kind of format.
Right. All right, but now they can. Head over to chessable.com, create to join the competition. We have some moves.
Yeah, big development there. Wesley So jumped in with his knight. Magnus just moved his queen, and now the knights have been traded as well. And I'm not sure who that favours, to be honest, long term, because it felt like while the knights remained on the board, there was more life in the position. There was more potential gain for Wesley So, especially because the white knight was always heading towards that key square that we kept mentioning, the f5 square. But now that the knights have left, yes, white is still the only one with a potential pawn break. White is the only one with a real plan right now. But even if white is able to initiate his plan, activate that plan, then it feels like there's not enough material left to back it up with. And 𝙬𝙬𝙬𝙬, you look very, very happy right now.
Here it comes, you know, now the opening will begin, you know, because it is a closed position. And when you have closed positions, you really have to think about opening lines. Remember, lines are the currency for pieces to attack. And, well, the white rooks need to get mobilized, and there's only one way to do it. You need to open up the position. And Magnus, there's only one plan that he has to look out for. Everything is written on the board. He will get ready. So this is how it's happening. The action has begun.
Yay.
Yeah.
It's only taken 28 moves, but we've seen now finally Wesley So. Actually, he's been setting up this plan for the last dozen moves at least. He's probably had this plan in mind for even longer than that. 𝙬𝙬𝙬𝙬 mentioned it. When did you mention it? It was about 15 moves ago, 𝙬𝙬𝙬𝙬. But finally, here he senses that the time is right. He pushes forward with his pawn on this f-line. The black queen was eyed up by the white rook, so queens hate to be on the same line as the opponent's rooks. Magnus just bringing that queen back to safety, and Wesley So now he takes the opportunity. You go backwards, I'm going to go forwards. The white queen now springing to life. She was doing nothing the whole game, but now finally she's found an active square. And despite the fact it is reduced material, despite the fact it's only major pieces, queens and rooks left on the board, white's queen is now very active. White's about to open up this f-line for some of his rooks. Magnus is on the defensive still. It feels like with best play he should be fine, but it's not easy to react to this plan. It just looks so direct, so effective here. And black just has to sit and hope and make sure there's no breakthrough.
Yeah, no, it's all to do with one of the other concepts that we're talking about, space. You know, just look at white, look at the freedom that the two rooks have. They can swing from both sides of the boards as easily as possible. The black's rooks, they're a little bit more clunky. They're purely defensive, defending those weak points. But I do think the position should be slightly easy to handle for black. And I'm just saying this because there are no minor pieces on the board, and it's just rooks and queens, and rooks are the most linear of pieces. They're kind of easy to kind of grapple with. And, well, the action just keeps heating up because Magnus tried to close down the position, but Wesley is insistent. Now he is advancing his pawn. And, well, I can just see the skeleton of the attack forming, can't we?
But, yeah, there's an attack coming, but Magnus has a defensive plan in mind. Maybe, actually, we can show this because Wesley, he has a clear idea, and this is very typical. Normally, with minor pieces on the board, you want knights and bishops here to help this attack, but the traditional idea is to push your pawn forward, block everything up even more. But now white wants to push this pawn forward. For example, if black just waits, if black does nothing. Okay, he doesn't do this yet, but if black waits, then suddenly the white pawns are okay, maybe not this square, it's dropping the rook, but here white is suddenly the one breaking through. White will bring his rook across and get at the black king. But this is Magnus Carlsen's defensive idea. Wesley didn't go for this because he sensed that if the pawn pushes forward, he would bring his queen across and suddenly the queen trade would happen. And once queens are off, no more attack. It's just going to be a dead draw, 2 blocked. And that's what Magnus is trying in the game position. If we go to it now, he's done this. He's brought his queen across, asking Wesley, do you want to win this game? If not, then you have to keep queens on. If you do want to win, sorry, then you have to keep queens on the board. So he's trying to kick away this white queen from its best square.
But wow, you guys. Wow, wow, wow. Take a look at what's happening down in the bottom of the screen. 17-year-old 𝙬𝙬𝙬𝙬 has won his first white game against 𝙬𝙬𝙬𝙬. He is up by 1 point now in that quarterfinal. Wow. He is ranked 355 spots lower on the ranking list than Levon 𝙬𝙬𝙬𝙬. He is in the lead in that quarterfinal. That is amazing.
Yeah, it's just incredible. I mean, we're about to see the new birth of a superstar, I think. 𝙬𝙬𝙬𝙬, 17, and he's not only just made the most of his debut on the tour, but he's continuing to show no fear to his more experienced rivals. Yeah, incredible scenes.
Yeah, amazing. We are witnessing a big breakthrough for a young chess player here in the top of world chess, winning his game against world number 5, Levon 𝙬𝙬𝙬𝙬 here. Wow, cool stuff. And we're definitely going to keep an eye on what happens then for the rest of that quarterfinal. But first, we're watching this one to see if Wesley can make a comeback after losing his first game against Magnus Carlsen. Still tension, I guess, then.
A lot of tension, but he does show that he still wants to win this game, Wesley. He brings his queen back. No trades anymore. Those white queens, the white queen, as long as it lives, there will be chances to attack the black king. And now Magnus, I don't see a plan for him. Maybe he just has to sit and wait. The other alternative plan, the only one I see for him, I'm not sure you really want to do it, it feels a bit scary, is to actually just bring that black king, which will get attacked on the right side, try and just slowly start bringing it across to the other side of the board. And if you could pick up the black king and actually plant it on the left side now, it's safe as anything. There's no breakthroughs on that flank.
So do you think we will see a king run? Because I must admit, when the position is so blocked, the idea did occur
Maybe you have
to
the
me
luxury.
as well.
Okay, but no king run yet. Magnus going for a controversial decision.
Ooh.
Pawn takes pawn? Why? Why are you opening up lines for your opponent's rooks? Wesley will just take that pawn back with his own pawn now, surely. And then there's a clear line. Look at the G line now.
I was wondering whether this is the plan. And then after that, you just, move your rook. And now, if you want to make any progress, you have to swap a set of rooks. And then we can start with your plan of just holding the position as tightly as you can.
I don't know. I hate that decision from Magnus. I think it was unnecessary. You've given white a protected passed pawn in the middle of the board. And it's not as if you have a knight to blockade. Knights are the best blockaders of passed pawns. So white has a fantastic pawn on the e5 square in the center of the board. Now, as you say, white's just trading off a set of rooks. Black's rook now the most active piece. And even pure rook endgames, even if the queens come off, even with one set of rooks off the board, maybe white still has some chances there. I just feel like Magnus, he's made his position worse in order to try and force things, in order to block it up immediately. Yeah. Maybe he could have kept the tension a bit longer. He's rushing to simplify.
Yeah, definitely. He's rushing to clarify the position. He got impatient. He couldn't handle the tension too long. I agree with you. I don't like this decision by Magnus at all. I mean, because suddenly there's a few pieces that have suddenly accelerated in their potential. The queen, I'm thinking, can suddenly dive in and sit on a central square and start eyeing up. And now she's got even more squares since Magnus has kindly lengthened the diagonal of the queen. With also the rook. The rook can suddenly step one square to the right and suddenly, wow, look at that line it's looking at. So many things. And not to mention, there is a passed pawn. That is the best type of pawn there is. So these kind of 3 factors makes me think that I'm just loving it for Wesley.
Yeah. I'm very, very surprised at Magnus's last move. I'm surprised by most of his last few moves, but actually I think there was a key move. Maybe he could have even drawn the game here, because If black thinks about creating a fortress, Magnus has said he doesn't believe in fortresses, but I think he could set up a perfect defensive formation. He could push his pawn forward, stopping the advance of white's pawns. And no matter what white does, if white brings the rook across, you just step your king to the side. Black, over the next few moves, no matter what white does, he's just going to push this pawn forward. He's going to bring his rook forward to block white's powerful protected pass pawn. He's going to stop that from moving. And then no matter, again, what white does, you just push your pawn forward. And look at black's formation now. Yes, it's ugly. Yes, it's bad. But you've completely stopped all of white's active play. Your rook here defends everything, and white's rook, meanwhile, can never get into the position. This would draw the game immediately. White's still having all the fun, but there's no way to break through into black's fortress. And right now, okay, Wesley not taking advantage of that in the game position. He just brought his rook across. I think first he should have started, with that pawn. He should have started with his own pawn push. He can still do it now. Push your pawn, Wesley. This will give you a fantastic square here for your rook long term. So right now, white can push this pawn forward, and black will try. Okay, this has happened. Magnus is going to try and block this with his rook. But now, later on, maybe white can use this square as a launching pad. There's going to be ideas, for example, of bringing the queen in and bringing your rook forward. Suddenly, it's much more shaky for Magnus Carlsen. I do feel that Wesley is the only one who can win now.
Yeah, I totally 100% agree with you there, David. Definitely Wesley will be the one pushing. I mean, you definitely have ideas of just moving the queen, aligning it with the rook. And okay, so now we have a few moves.
Yep.
Exactly.
So now all white needs to do, I think, you need to stop black getting active.
Yeah, exactly. Don't allow that. There is no need to get into any drama there.
That's why Wesley brings his queen across, attacking this black pawn. Look at Magnus now. He's just waiting. He's just going to play his queen around here, these three squares, and hope that Wesley can't break through. Maybe there is no breakthrough. Computers, let's ignore the evaluation bar for now, because computers struggle to understand positions that are really, really blocked. So I don't trust the computer that it's that winning for white. I don't think white has a +2 advantage here, but it's clear that white is having all the fun. Maybe the first step of the plan for white is one we mentioned earlier for black. And Wesley's he's doing it. He's going to put his king nice and safe on this side of the board, and then he's going to attack on the other side, because then his king will be safe. He doesn't have to worry about it anymore.
He doesn't have to worry about any perpetual checks. And that is the main danger, actually, that the black queen could extricate herself from the bind and then sacrifice a rook, and then the white king is totally helpless. Love it. Love what Wesley is doing. Get the king safe on the left side. White has all the time in the world. What is black going to do? Well, black is trying.
Wow, Magnus. I mean, that is a huge risk. I didn't see white's winning plan. I think maybe the best bet for black was just to sit still and pray. But here...
Okay, so this is the natural move. So queen moves. Now the black rook cannot move. But what happens after... I mean, how is the pawn ending?
Magnus is dead lost, I think.
Wow.
I think he just got bored, maybe, or is inertia.
We should show it, David. I mean, why we think he's lost.
Yeah, so for example, now white's queen is pinning along this diagonal, and if black just sits, I don't know how you sit.
King moves.
King moves. Then if all of these pieces get traded, if the rooks come off the board, if the queens come off the board, suddenly the fact that white has this one protected pass pawn is going to win the game. Black's king is going to have to blockade it, but while the black king blockades it, white's king is coming into the action. White, for example, will just bring his king in, whatever black does. If black pushes a pawn, the white king's going to easily come over and win this pawn, and black's king cannot do two jobs. It cannot protect its pawn and stop white's pawn at the same time. White is just completely winning. So Magnus, he knew he couldn't do this. Instead, in the current position, he just brought his rook back. So we see a rook endgame now, but white has the same plan. Black can never trade rooks. Remember, it's going to end up in the same thing we just showed. So white has the same plan. He's just going to bring his king round, march his king up the board, and use his rook to win black's pawns. Yeah. Magnus is busted. No chance anymore. I'm shocked by that decision. Why did he push that pawn? He had a fortress. There was no way for white to break through.
Yeah,
Magnus is just self-destructed here, and Wesley's going to win the same game.
Is that pattern repeating? It just seems that their destinies are entwined. Yeah. You know, they're just absolutely bound to one winning and the other one striking back when necessary. I love what David has just shown us. I mean, it's such a bizarre move that I actually had to double guess myself, because I was like, that pawn ending, it's an elementary win. It makes no comprehension why Magnus would go into such a thing.
Look at Magnus now as well.
Okay, but now, I mean, how is it that the king has gone to this square? I mean, then it's fine. Oh, we have a result.
Magnus resigns.
Magnus just resigns. He just gives up. He doesn't even try to fight on. He knew how bad the situation is. He's going to get in a hopeless king and pawn endgame.